And it is an extraordinary achievement that has happened because of all of you and all the advocates all across the country. So thank you.
All right, that was the president almost exactly 2 years ago as he signed the health care bill into law. Here with us now, former White House advisor for health policy and University of Pennsylvania's vice provost of global initiatives and chair of the Department of Medical Ethics and Health Policy at UPenn's Perelman School of Medicine, Dr. Zeke. Emmanuel, you officially have the longest title of anyone who's ever been on the show.
They give you titles because they don't give you anything else. No power, no money.
What else do I need to say? Is there a list I need to read?
Yeah, my brothers. You'll mention my brothers in a second.
Exactly. No, you know what? I'm going to lay off your brother. All
right.
He makes me tired.
Where's Joe?
He makes me tired, too. Where is Joe?
Yeah, he's afraid that I'm here. He decides he's not showing up, right?
Oh, great.
Vaccination.
No, he's on location. Let me ask you this. We've got 2 years now to this being signed into law, and we're headed to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
So the fate of the individual mandate, can you give us a prognosis?
Oh, yeah. I have two very large bets with Ronald Perelman and another billionaire that this is going to be upheld. It's definitely constitutional. I think there's no credible legal scholar doubts it. The Commerce Clause allows Congress to do anything necessary and proper to maintain the market, and they will uphold it.
For the economically illiterate, which would include me, could you please explain what is the problem with the mandate? Why is
What's the argument?
What's the argument in the Supreme Court about?
Yeah.
Well, so the argument is that Congress shouldn't force people to buy something that they otherwise wouldn't want to buy. And health insurance being something which many Americans, or some Americans, can't buy. And the claim is Congress cannot force you to do that. But the fact is, we know in the insurance market, if everyone doesn't buy, the insurance markets collapse. Mm-hmm. We have had a lot of exchanges around the country that have tried on a voluntary basis to have people purchase, and they always collapse because the people who end up buying are people who are sick. The people who are healthy find it too expensive, so they stay out. The price goes up. Then the people who are just at the edge, healthy, they come out. And so you end up collapsing because the only sick people are in the market. To have a stable insurance market, you need everyone in, and that's what the mandate
But the argument seems to make sense. You shouldn't have to buy something you don't want to buy. But let me ask, is there a precedent for this argument that could challenge?
There are plenty of precedents.
Okay, so what are some of the key ones?
George Washington required people to have guns. In the 1960s, the Supreme Court, with the Commerce Clause, required people who owned hotels and restaurants who didn't want to serve blacks to serve African Americans because they said it was part of interstate commerce and they couldn't discriminate. And so I think there are many, many precedents. This is not actually unusual. Plus, we require people to get vaccinated. We were just talking about vaccines. We require people to get vaccinated partially for their own protection, but also partially because it protects other people. If you're vaccinated, it reduces the chance that the virus will spread around the country.
The argument on the other side is that, I don't want to get too wonky here, but they use the Commerce Clause rather than the taxing power to justify this. The taxing power clearly lets the Congress do pretty much anything. And the argument, which some of the lower courts have embraced, is this is inactivity, not to participate in the health insurance market. The counter argument is, look, we just don't know when you might participate. If you don't have insurance and you get sick, you go to an ER, they have to treat you, which raises the cost of health care for everybody. And that's going to be, most people think that's the most powerful argument in favor of using the Commerce Clause to say, okay, Congress can mandate this. The problem is that this more recent Supreme Court, for the first time since the New Deal, and when I say this court, I mean over the last 10 years, has on a couple of occasions said to the Congress and the President, you've exceeded the reach of the Commerce Clause.
Yeah, but look, even Justice Scalia, my friend, has written that the last part of the Commerce Clause says Congress can do anything necessary and proper to effectuate its powers. Necessary and proper, he says, is vast powers to Congress.
This is what we're going to come down to. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in law school. But,
and I've never been there.
And I never had a practice. But I do think that it's not that clear that this Supreme Court and how it reads the Constitution and the scope of federal power is that prepared to embrace this argument?
This just isn't conservatives, because you have Charles Freed, who was the Solicitor General under Ronald Reagan. You have the Justice, who was Silberman at the D.C. Circuit, all saying that this is clearly within the scope of Congress's power.
So let me ask you guys with the big brains here.
Yeah.
What happens?
Ethical mind.
What happens in perhaps the surprising circumstance that the court rules
it's unconstitutional?
Yeah.
Rules it's unconstitutional. What happens to the rest of the bill? Does the bill collapse?
First of all, there are two things. It's a really good point. There are two things to notice. Many more people, 16 million more people, will still actually enter the market and no longer be uninsured. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that with the mandate, you get 32 million people newly enrolled. Without the mandate, you get 16 million. So it's not like nothing happens, even if the mandate goes away. Second of all, I think it does put some pressure on Congress, businesses, and others to actually go out there and try to get more people enrolled and to make them do it voluntarily. And it's interesting here, in this context, insurance companies want more and more people to be enrolled, partially because it adds to their business, but partially it adds to the risk pool. It gets more healthy people.
And here's the great irony to me. All this very complicated bill, which we ought to point out 2/3 of the country still is not in favor of, unlike any other piece of social legislation, is also because they didn't feel that you could get a classic single-payer national health insurance system. Now that is clearly constitutional.
Well, we also,
if I may, if you just took out the Medicare bill and struck out over 65, that's constitutional.
Right.
Maybe a bad idea. Maybe we can't afford it. But because they had to go through hoops to avoid a single-payer system, they've now got this mandate, which was in fact created by conservative thinkers 20 years ago, that's under some question. It's bizarre.
But Mike, go back to your other question. There are lots of things that the health systems are doing now for cost control or to improve quality, reduce hospital infections, reduce readmissions. All of that part of the bill will continue to go forward. I mean, hospitals are actively working hard to improve what they can do. Doctors, similarly, are transforming how they deliver care to improve the coordination, reduce problems, make people more compliant with their medications, diets. So all of that still goes roaring forward, and all of us are going to benefit from that. All of us already have benefited.
Monumental effort, though.
So let's say the law is struck down, or say a President Romney or President Santorum comes in and they've all vowed to repeal Obamacare. So then what happens? They repeal Obamacare, then what happens?
You need 60 votes to repeal Obamacare. It ain't happening.
Okay, but
it ain't happening.
I know it ain't happening. But let's say by some craziness it does happen. What happens to all those people who are in insurance plans and things like that? What happens?
So I was teaching my course in health policy at the University of Pennsylvania yesterday, and we had a guest lecturer who advises a lot of insurance companies, and she points out that the number of small businesses dropping insurance is increasing. The number of big businesses who are raising rates on people is increasing. You have a very unstable situation, and I think what you're pointing to is there's no plan B. It's not like the Republicans and I know that Joe goes crazy when I say this, it's not like the Republicans ever offered a coherent alternative that would control costs, improve quality, and increase access in this country. This is the only game in town.
Zeke, Jeff accurately points out that 2/3 of the country either oppose the bill or are confused about the bill. You were in the White House when this bill was being, processed. The communications aspects surrounding this bill, why has it been so poor? I mean, just take one aspect of it, that a kid graduated from college, can't get a job, is living with you at home, under 26, you can put him on your health care bill. On your health plan.
And 2.5 million kids under 26 have taken.
But there are other aspects of the bill. Why doesn't the country understand?
Look, I have to say that the communications around this bill, I think, have been poor, and it has been the administration's Achilles heel. This is the one area that they have really fallen down. We should make clear, though, that bad communication does not mean bad bill. It means a bad communication strategy, and I do agree with you. I think they have done a very poor job at communicating. My own recommendation had been that there are a lot of doctors and nurses who support the bill, and we should empower them to speak out for the bill and go around the country and explain the bill to people.
So why didn't they?
I'm not the communications guy. I'm the policy
It was your
wonk.
idea.
I'm the policy
Why did
wonk
they
guy.
tell you
It's
no?
too bad you
And
didn't
what do
know
I know about communications?
Too bad you didn't know anybody in the White House who might have had some
Look at him.
influence about this.
Good
You know,
Lord.
or
But I think-
a family member or something.
I think
Manual.
that has been a serious problem, which is they have not convinced the American public that this is good and in their interest. Yet the bill is good and in the American
Why
public
didn't you
interest.
just dope slap the former chief of staff, your brother?
Right.
If
That's
I
a
may,
good
if I may
point.
very quickly, one of the problems which overarches every attempt to reform healthcare is that there's a fundamental, I believe, American sense of what they want from healthcare. They want all the healthcare they want, whether they need it or not, and they don't want to pay for it. I think that's at the root of a lot of this.
I think that over-exaggerates. I think
Me?
It's a very complicated system, and I think when you talk to people, they're reasonable. It is very complicated, and they therefore don't fully understand all the parts of it. What
Wait.
they would like is the care that is really important to them, and they understand that there's a lot of waste in the system, and they would actually like someone to take a hold of it and solve the problem.